Hi everybody, it's Eliza with Old Dominion Dog Training in Richmond, Virginia. I posted a photo to social media a couple weeks ago of a nylon buckle collar that I had converted to work with an eCollar Technologies Easy Educator receiver. And I had a couple of questions from folks who wanted to know step by step how to convert these collars. Before you purchase a collar, measure your dog's neck to see what size he's going to need, and then you need to add about 3 inches to his neck size to accommodate the remote collar receiver. There are a couple things to look for when you are searching for a nylon strap to use with a remote collar. The biggest thing to look for is to make sure that the strap itself is relatively thin, and not that it doesn't have any like extra texture to it, because it needs to be thin enough and flat enough to go into your remote collar receiver. All right, so taking a seam ripper, you locate the end of the collar, and you'll find that they have been sewn to keep it together around the plastic square keeper piece. So to free that end, you're going to take a seam ripper and just undo all of the seams. All right, so you can see we're almost through. So I'm just going to take a couple more passes. All right, and I'm not going to worry too much about the very end, because we're actually going to trim a little bit of that off. And then to make it as flat as possible, we're going to take super glue and then squish it between wax paper to make sure that it's nice and flat and it'll fit easily into our receiver. So I'm just going to trim maybe like 1/4 of an inch off the ends, and make sure you have really sharp scissors so it makes a clean cut. Okay, and then you can go back and trim up the ends. We can also clean it up once we've put super glue on it. All right, so have your wax paper handy. And then all you're going to do is take super glue and do little dots all the way across, covering both sides and then the top where you've cut. So once you've got your super glue on, all you do is squish it in between your wax paper. Making sure that the ends are nice and clean as well. Edges, I mean. Typically the ends of these collars have been melted where they've been cut, but sometimes when the collar itself melts, it does seal it, but that seal is a little too thick to fit into the receiver. To reassemble the collar, we're first going to put the remote collar receiver back onto the strap, and you'll see how easily it fits right in. Just like that. Next, we're going to put the square plastic keeper onto the collar. Next, we're going to put the smaller plastic keeper. And then finally, we're going to put the other end of the buckle on. And one thing thing to note, these buckles do have a front and a back. So when you're putting the buckle back on, make sure it's in the right direction so that when it clips together, it's tight. Otherwise, if it's backwards, it'll only go in halfway. So we're going to feed the strap through the buckle and then feed the strap back through the smaller plastic keeper. And I like to tighten that keeper up close to the end of the collar where the buckle is. And then the tricky part is getting the rest of the strap through that square plastic keeper. So if you scooch it down to give it a little room, you can take the end of the collar strap, pull it through, and then just feed it through the other side like that. So then you can tighten everything up. And I tend to keep the plastic piece a little bit closer to the end, just to make sure that the end of the strap stays put and doesn't flap around too much. So there you have it. It's a nylon collar strap for an Easy Educator remote collar. This is a 3/4 inch yellow dog design collar. It would fit any of the Easy Educator models as well as the minis. And it's just a nice alternative to the biothane straps that come with those collars. A couple things to keep in mind. If you are planning to swim with your dog, just be mindful that a nylon collar might stretch out. So be careful with fit. I would just check it every so often. And then, you know, when you put the collar on your dog, just be extra careful that it's actually buckled and it's nice and tight.